Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know when you're watching this, but I do know that we are reading the book of Esther to start out the first full week of May. And I just want you to know that if you have ever read a children's book of Esther, when you're reading the Bible and the book of Esther in the Bible, I need you to take that children's book that you read about Esther and just delete it from your brain. It wasn't wrong. It was great for kids to read at their level. It was great to keep them innocent of what they needed to be innocent of. But you are no longer a kid. And so you get to read God's word. You get to read Esther with a fresh understanding of how God worked. And if you've never read a children's book of Esther, great. Join us. I'm glad you're here. As you read the book of Esther, you're going to recognize that the culture, the society, the region where Queen Esther became queen was full of evil. We read that story and we're like, oh, Esther went from orphan to queen. How cool. She got to get pampered for a year. How cool. No, it's like the opposite of cool. And maybe it wasn't horrible all the time, but the fact was Esther was forced to leave her home along with a lot of other girls and be pampered for a year, but have no choice of leaving. And then all of those girls waited until the King Xerxes called on them, and for an entire night, their job was to perform any sexual pleasure he wanted. And then they left, and they had to wait to see if they got picked to be queen based off of that one night. And if they didn't get picked, the rest of their reality was tinted because of how society would view them, because of how King Xerxes used these ladies. And it wasn't just ladies that would get used. That region would take boys, 500 every single year, for their own benefit. They would take them from their homes. This was a region where this was like normal. People weren't thinking they were doing evil. They thought they had a right to do this. And as you are reading Esther, I hope it gets you mad because of the evil that people wanted to do. And I hope you notice that there are people that were still following and trusting that God had a plan through it all. And they were living like God was in charge. In fact, that's why Mordecai wouldn't bow down to Haman. As you read, you'll find out that King Xerxes made his decision to destroy all the Jews because of the influence Haman had in his life. And you'll also read how Esther made her decision to speak up for her people because of the influence of Mordecai in her life. And I just want to take that and bring that into where we are today and help you think about what influences your decisions for everyday life. You know, a lot of us are in shelter in place, and so we're on our phones, we're on our screens a lot, and that influences us. And you have a choice. Is what you're watching and listening to and taking in, is it helping you live out a life that reflects God's goodness and kindness and gentleness and justice? Or is it doing the opposite? Because it's one or the other. It's either doing that or it's helping you live out the lies of Satan. And I think that a lot of times people are like, well, it's not bad. No, honey, it's either good or it's bad. And there's no in between. Y'all know what Jesus said about lukewarm faith, right? Lukewarm believers, he'd rather vomit, okay? Not something I want to live out. So I want us to take this week and go the next 2 weeks and read the story of Esther and recognize, what can God teach me about the influences that I'm allowing? There are influences in your life that you have no control over, right? You're living with the family you're living with. You're in the neighborhood you're in the school you're in. But what influences do you allow in your life, and what kind of influence are you on others? The next 2 weeks, you're going to have the opportunity to join us in a study about what God's word has to say about porn. And we're going to have a YouTube message this week and next about the influence that you and I get to have. And you guys, I think it's going to be life-changing. I'm super pumped, and I'm excited to do this with you. To use for whatever pleasure they wanted, mostly sexual, okay? I'm going to try not to say all right. I'm just really passionate about what